This dramatic story happened in the dense forests of Alaska, where nature still reigns in all its grandeur and severity. The frosty air seared the lungs, and the ominous shadows casting them seemed to hide 1,000 secrets. Alex, an experienced National Park ranger, music playing as he patrolled through leaves, giving the impression of moving through a silent, frozen world. Suddenly his attention was caught by an unusual sound echoing between the centuries-old pines. The sound was so unexpected and piercing that I felt my hair on the Alex stood on end, froze, and listened carefully. His heightened senses caught strange screams, inhuman, but full of pain and despair. Blood ran cold in his veins when he realized that he had never heard anything like this before in all the years of working in the forest. Despite the anxious feeling that overcame him, Alex decided to check the source of the sound. Every step was difficult, as if something invisible tried to hold him back. The screams became louder and louder, and finally, the man came out into a small glade. What the caretaker saw shook him to a huge brown bear lay on the ground, its body caught in several cruel illegal traps at once. Its front paw was in a steel trap, its neck was constricted with a noose, its hind legs were tangled with barbed wire. At every movement, the animal let out heartbreaking moans of pain, which took Alex's breath away. The bear's blood soaked the ground behind the gun. An encounter with such a wounded bear could be deadly. His fingers shook as he rummaged in his backpack to stop the man. It seemed that the bear was begging for help, and this look pierced his heart, making him forget about his own safety. Casting aside his fear, Alex cautiously approached the suffering animal. Every step echoed with a loud heartbeat in his ears as he came closer to examine the traps. The bear suddenly swung his paw to try to defend himself. Sharp claws almost hit Alex's face, causing him to shrink to the side, but Alex did not retreat. Instead, he did something incredible: put the gun on the ground and picked up the hollows, which would not harm the animal. Surprisingly, the bear seemed to understand, though he was still warily watching that man. Alex knew he was risking his life while approaching a huge predator, but he could not leave him in trouble. At that moment, he remembered his family, the children waiting for him at home. But the determination to help overcame fear. Evo carefully tangled the barbed wire. Deeply ingrained, there was only the trap on his paw. Alex realized that as soon as he freed the bear finally, it might attack him, but there was no other choice as to trust the beast and his instincts. Summoning all his courage, Alex opened the trap. The seconds of struggling with the mechanism seemed like an eternity, but instead of running away or attacking, he remained lying motionless. Only now did Alex see how serious the animal's wounds were. Its fur was covered with deep cuts, and blood oozed from the wounds. The view from the wounded beast made Alex's heart shrink with such pain and anger at those who could treat a living creature so cruelly. After a few minutes, the bear struggled to his feet. Every movement seemed to cause him unbearable pain. Took indecisive steps and fell to the ground again. Uttering a groan of pain and weakness, Alex knelt next to him, speaking softly to the animal, calming it. And the man could not just leave the injured beast. Sooner or later it would be found by poachers, or it would die of its wounds. The thought that such a powerful creature might die because of human cruelty was unbearable. Without thinking twice, Alex called a team on the radio from the nearest wildlife rescue center. Waiting for help seemed every minute was crucial when the veterinarians arrived at the bear. It turned out that he had spent several days in the traps without food and water. The wounds were inflamed. An urgent operation was required. Alex did not leave the animal, feeling a strange connection with this wild creature. By joint efforts, the bear was loaded into a special van and taken to the center. The trip was tense. Every bump on the road made Alex shudder, fearing for the condition of the wounded animal. Veterinarians worked for several hours, cleaning and sewing up the wounds and injecting antibiotics for him. Alex had stayed all night waiting for the operation results. When it was over, they told Alex that this bear was not the only victim. During the past month, they had received several reports of wild animals with similar injuries and wounds. It drove Alex furious as he felt the anger inside him burning, asking for a way out. He decided that Tony would find the culprits. Several days while the bear was recovering in the center, Alex was conducting his own investigation. He has installed hidden cameras in the most popular hunting grounds, but to no avail. With every failure, his determination grew stronger. Finally, the bear was strong enough to be released back into the forest, but Alex knew well that as long as the poachers remained free, no animal was safe. He redoubled his efforts, patrolling day and night, forgetting about sleep and rest. His obsession began to bother colleagues and family, but Alex could not stop. And then one night, he was woken up by an alarm signal from one of the cells. His heart was beating wildly when Alex saw the vague silhouette of a man on the screen. Laying traps, adrenaline poured into the blood, his hands shaking with excitement. He snatched a flashlight and a radio, and without wasting time on calls for reinforcements, he rushed into the forest. Moving cautiously in the dark, Alex followed the barely distinguishable footprints. They took further into the thicket, to the places he almost never came. Every rustling made him freeze, afraid to betray his presence. And then suddenly a ray of light flickered in front. Holding one's breath, Alex looked from behind the tree, feeling his heart racing wildly in the small clearing. He saw a man set up a huge illegal trap, and a few more of the same kind lay around. Not having the slightest hesitation, Alex jumped from his ambush position, yelling to stand the forest guards. His voice reverberated in the forest, having disrupted the night's silence. The poacher turned around abruptly and rushed to run away. A chase began through the dense forest thicket. Branches whipped on his face, leaving bloody scratches. But Alex did not spare his lungs, burning with tension yet. Determination gave him strength finally. He managed to catch up with the criminal and knocked him to the ground. Feeling that years of training and patrols pay off at this moment, and fierce struggle ensued. The poacher was strong and agile, but Alex was determined not to let him leave. They rolled on the ground, exchanging blows. At some point, the poacher drew a knife. The blade flashed in the moonlight. Alex felt a sharp pain when the knife left a deep cut on his arm, but adrenaline drowned out the pain. He managed to knock the weapon out of the opponent's hand. Finally, after a few minutes of exhausting fight, Alex defeated the villain. He pinned the poacher to the ground and put handcuffs on him. Feeling incredible relief and triumph, he called on the radio. He called for reinforcements, and soon the police arrived. When the police were taking the poacher away, Alex saw a mixture of fear and respect in his eyes. During the interrogation, the criminal confessed to everything and gave away the places where he had set traps. In one big operation, all the traps were found and neutralized. It turned out that for several months, a gang of poachers had been operating in these forests, but thanks to Alex, they managed to stop them. The sense of accomplishment overwhelmed, but he knew that this was only the beginning of struggle for preservation. A week after these events, it was an exciting moment when the bear rescued by Alex was ready to go to the wild. He was brought deep into the forest and released, but instead of running away immediately, the bear stopped for a while, looked at the people. Gratitude was read in his eyes, and it seemed to Alex that even the beast recognized him. This moment of connection between man and wild animal was almost mystical. Then the bear leisurely wandered into the thicket and disappeared among the trees. Tears came to Alex's eyes, as he knew he would never forget this amazing incident. About this is the story of how man and wild beast were able to trust each other. This experience forever changed his view of the world and his place in it. Alex now dedicated himself with even greater zeal to protecting wild animals and their habitats. His story inspired many people to join the conservation movement. The bear he had rescued became a legend among the locals, a symbol of fortitude and the importance of preserving wildlife for future generations. With each entry into the forest, Alex felt a special connection with this place and its inhabitants, knowing that his work was